Okay. So my name is Jenny. I am the Director of Sustainability here at Tirzah International. I'll share a little bit of my background today as we go through this workshop, webinar, whatever you might want to call it. But my love is sustainability in all different pillars, whether you're looking at economic, social, environmental, spiritual sustainability. I truly believe that when we diversify revenue, we diversify different innovations that we're working with. If we're taking the holistic wraparound approach, we can create sustainable solutions all around the world. And so I joined Tirzah International and the team last year in August as the Director of Sustainability. As you guys, are you guys hearing this honking in the background? And it is a joy for me to be able to introduce these free resources and webinar series across the rest of the year. Last year, we ran a cohort that went through a curriculum and a course that I built called Impact Ignited. So there's some of you in this room that might have been a part of Impact Ignited, which is basically kind of ethical business 101. And we will be doing another invite-only cohort in September. It'll be a shorter time frame, but a pretty intense dedication to the program. So for those people, we will be reaching out to you on that, but these will always be available to you every month. We will have this 1 hour sustainability conversation. So the first part of it will be going through whatever our topic is. And then I want to leave the second half of it to be open for discussion. So put your questions in the chat. So I will be able to navigate that afterwards, but make sure that you write that down at any point. If you want to interrupt me, I'm okay with that. So just raise your hand and your square will come to the top, and I can stop and we can answer questions throughout. All right. So I am so happy you guys are here today. These are the sessions that are coming up, but today we are going to be talking specifically about the 5 P's of sustainability framework. So this is in collaboration and with Tirzah International, but I do wear a lot of different hats. So this framework was created by the School of Ethical Impact, which I'm a co-founder of. And so we're going to walk through the 5 P's, why it's important, how it got started, and what's the mission and vision behind what ethical impact really means. Later in a couple of months, we will be diving a little bit deeper into the definitions of ethical impact leadership. But today I will touch on it because it is the foundation for why we do look at all facets of the 5 P's. So this is me. My name is Dr. Jenny Nuccio. Like I said, I wear a lot of hats. One in this sphere, in this perspective, I am the Director of Sustainability here. My main hat that most people know me as is the founder and CEO of Amani Collective, which is a global social enterprise based in Mombasa, Kenya. And we also work in the northern region of Turkana. I've been in Kenya for the last 13 years. I'm a mother of 3, who are 7, 5, and 3. I'm a wife of 10 years. And yeah, there's a lot of busy and beautiful mess that happens at home. And then as well as I'm the co-founder of School of Ethical Impact. I also am a professor at California Baptist University within the social work department. So I teach a lot and my expertise is focused on global social enterprise, on ethical business practices, on effective leadership and how you lead both in the nonprofit and the for-profit realm, and then program evaluation and global human rights. Those are things that I talk about on a regular basis. So if there's anything outside of this webinar where you just want to tap on my shoulder or ask questions or need connections or need resources, I always encourage people to reach out. I want to be that connection point for you and be able to share those connections and that value to you. We won't go over all of this, but this is a little bit of my journey. Began as a social entrepreneur in 2009, founded Amani Collective in 2011. It then became a women's program, a women empowerment program in 2013, which was mainly just in the nonprofit space. In 2017, we rebranded to Amani Collective and we grew in our numbers here on the ground. January 2021, we launched the School of Ethical Impact and the frameworks that we're going to be talking about today. March of 2021, we restructured Amani Collective into a hybrid model. So if you're ever wondering on how to diversify revenue, how to create a nonprofit and a for-profit arm, that's kind of our secret sauce over here at Amani Collective. We received our first round of capital in May of 2021, investment capital, and over the years have raised millions of dollars into our nonprofit sector and space. And so all of this is, I believe, why I get to wear the hat of Director of Sustainability at Tirzah and be here with you today. So why is this important and why am I talking about the 5 Ps? One, in the global social enterprise world and in that space, there is truly a lack of funding, growth, and resources. You can look at regular traditional ecosystems that are built around just regular entrepreneurs and early stage entrepreneurs, and they're going to be receiving 14 times more the support and capital than a social entrepreneur, social impact organization, business, brand, whatever you categorize yourself will. One, because there's just underdeveloped systems around that, but there's also, it's convoluted. The conversations happening in the space, even though they started 10, 15 years ago, are still relatively new as we navigate this hybrid world of both nonprofit and traditional charity, and then bring in these other revenue sectors, whether you're, selling a service or a product or anything like that. When you are thinking of social impact, we know the basis of triple bottom line, and we know that there is going to be a little bit more risk, or it's going to take you a little bit longer to grow. And so these are questions that are hard for stakeholders to grapple with, specifically if they are just investing for just a regular early stage entrepreneur. So when we add social impact, when we start to ask the hard questions, when we want to do good in this world, there's just not a lot of education yet around it, and it's continuing to develop. So why aren't more, why are more people, that doesn't make sense. Why more people aren't doing it? I need to reword that question. Why more people aren't doing it? Again, like I said, it's convoluted. Most people look at social enterprises as glorified charities. So they don't understand, and should I buy from you? Should I give to you? They don't understand the idea of mission versus profit and what that means. Is it truly sustainable? Is it actually going to work? I think these are questions that people ask a lot. And then you can look over here when you're looking at kind of the analysis of it. 52% of Americans who agree that marketing products as ethical is just a way for companies to manipulate consumers. So there's this lack of trust that has already been built within the space, right? And we can see that in traditional nonprofits as well. When you donate, people are asking, is this really going to where it's going? And that perspective has just overlapped into the social enterprise world. 49% Americans who believe companies behave ethically in one area while behaving unethically in another. So again, we might be good over here, but are they truly this way across their whole business and their organization? And then 68% Americans who are confused about what certain ethical icons mean. So again, the education behind consumerism is actually a really major thing that needs to happen as we continue to push into this space and diversify. But the opportunity here is we get to shift perceptions, we get to rethink organizational structures, and there is a rapid growth behind this. These stats are actually quite behind. I need to update this slide, but 60% US social enterprises created in 2006 or later. And obviously we're in 2023. So this idea that social enterprise was already starting. I mean, when you look at larger corporations that were doing more than just CSR, you can look at Ben & Jerry's, you can look at Green Mountain Coffee, you can look at Dr. Bonner's. These are actually large businesses that were already implementing sustainability initiatives and were already thinking of social enterprise before it was ever a thing. Especially Dr. Bonner was doing this back in the 70s and a leader in this. And so we are now finally catching up and adopting this as leaders in the field. So how can we continue to shift perceptions? How can we rethink those organizational structures and continue to be innovative as leaders? And then that is only going to continue to have that rapid growth. So with the School of Ethical Impact, why I created it in 2021 and why I'm sitting in front of you in collaboration and in partnership with Tirzah International is I would say I personally, along with the school, believe that, the mission here is to ignite within others the courage to take a chance on themselves. I think the hardest thing for ourselves as individuals is just saying yes and taking that first step. It's a scary step when we're trying to go against the grain a little bit, or we're trying to change the way people view a certain topic or a certain perspective, right? We're really being innovators in the space, and now maybe not so much innovators, but now we're being early adopters. But so we want to take courage, we want to have courage and take a chance on ourselves, and then we want also the mission is to cultivate that community around one another. I believe we were made to be in community. We are made to be aligned with like-minded people, right? So a community of aligned change makers who are driven by passion, equipped with knowledge, and empowered for that connection. And the vision here is that we want to see a world where all businesses leverage profits to uplift people in pursuit of ethical and social change. So let's talk a little bit about what is ethical impact leadership. We're just going to touch on this, and then a couple months down the line, we'll dive a little bit deeper into what this means. So this is terminology that we'll hear a lot in the fields. We'll hear conscious business. So these are words that are thrown around. We'll hear conscious business, we'll hear ethical business. We're all very familiar with fair trade, and that being a thing, or of course, a certification that people might be looking for. We'll hear artisan made, social good, B Corporation is growing, conscious capitalism. I will also share these slides after, so you guys have it. CSR is a very corporate terminology, but you'll hear corporate social responsibility. You'll hear about green practices, eco-environmentally friendly, sustainability, which is why we're here, but often is the most misused word and the most misunderstood word, and then sustainable brand. But what do all of these mean, right? I think these are words that we can utilize to kind of perk the ears of consumers, but are we actually implementing it into our practices? And are we actually educating our consumers what these words actually mean? So when I'm looking at ethical impact, and we're looking at what is ethical impact, the one thing that I like to mention is impact itself. Impact, and if you've been in, again, if you were in Impact Ignited in that course, or you've done any coaching with me, I sound like a broken record, but impact, we will always assume our impact is good because we're change makers. And that's what our hope is. Our hope is that impact is going to be good. But the reality is impact can be really, really bad, whether we want to see it or not. And we might have, as we all know, we know this phrase, we might have good intentions and then it doesn't exactly happen the way we want it to happen. So a term that I use often is called radically listening. And as a leader, it starts with us. We need to be able to radically listen to communities so we understand how we can create ethical impact. So ethical impact is a combination of pretty much all of those, the summary of all of those words put into one. It's if you were going to throw it into a bucket, throw it into a bag and just shake it up, ethical impact would come out of it, because it's not just a one-sided term. It's a holistic wraparound approach, and it takes into account all aspects of yourself, all aspects of your business, and all aspects of your beneficiaries, your community, the people that you're serving, right? It's truly a full circular approach. You can't just look at one thing and not understand how it's going to affect the other thing behind the curtain. So it means truly rethinking the triple bottom line. It is also not perfection. there's never a time where you are truly going to be 100% sustainability. And if someone tells you they're 100% environmentally sustainability, they're lying to you, because in a circular economy effect, there's absolutely no way that you can have 100% sustainability, especially in the environment. When you might be doing one thing, and like, I'll give you an example. One thing, you might implement solar panels, but the reality of actually producing those solar panels so that then you could have the solar panels, the amount of emissions that goes into the environment to actually purchase those solar panels is more harmful for the environment than actually having solar panels. I'm not telling you not go get solar panels. Go get solar panels and save money all day. But what I'm telling you is that there's always a circular effect and both sides. So we can never be 100%, but we can always try, right? There's always progress. We can always maximize and we can always get better. So this is about empowerment of choice. It's about empowerment of self and about our community and others, that we're not fitting into a box. We're not telling society that this is, what it defines me to be me, but rather we're taking into account everything around us, and really soaking that in, and having that wraparound approach to move forward. Okay. So we can't get to the 5 Ps, and we can't, even talk about sustainability if we don't talk about yourself first. So I will nerd out all day on leadership development, leadership theories, because that's my background. I have a lot of theoretical background all the way up into my doctorate about leadership. So if you want to know anything about leadership, I'm here for you to pick your brain and then also tell you more about it. But I love leadership. And so I created this framework called the Rise Leader, because in order to make ethical impact and to create sustainability, we have to look inside before we can look externally. So RISE stands for respect, respecting others and the world around you, that is the nature from which we should show up in spaces. We should hold integrity, holding honesty at our core of who we are, and being authentic in nature. Just being authentic, having authenticity to the core is truly what is an integral part of a RISE leader. Service, that we should serve wholeheartedly, not just our beneficiaries and the people that we might be serving within our community, whether that's, again, our organization, our company, or a specific program that we're running, but that we should have service to everyone, and the ripple effect that we make within our community. So not just internal, but also external. If you're running a business, it's not just about your employees, it's also about your suppliers and maybe the people you pay rent to, that we should be also figuring out how to serve them too. And then equity, striving to treat everyone with fairness and having equity across the board. So this is the RISE leadership. And with RISE leadership comes the 3 spheres of opportunity that you have as a leader. When you start as a RISE leader, you're going to encompass ethical impact leadership, and that immediately is going to overflow into your business. And when that overflows into your business, after years, days, weeks, years of practice, that is going to overflow into your lifestyle. Whether you like it or not, or your husband likes it or not, that's going to change the way you live life and you ask questions. The one thing that bothers my husband the most is that I always get on him about our plastic usage, because we're doing massive restructuring at Amani Collective of going 100% plastic free. And that's like all I'm thinking about all the time. And that has now overflowed into my lifestyle and into conversations that I'm having on a day-to-day. So know that that is going to have, a great impact as you move forward. And this all pours into kind of these 4 tenets, these core tenets that we're looking at. 1, you're respecting the 5 Ps of sustainability framework, which we're about to go over. 2, you're operating with integrity and aligning systems and strategies with your values. Next webinar, we talk about core values and personal manifesto. And I think this is one of, foundationally, as a leader, you should know your top 5 core values, because it helps align you with every decision you're making, with every choice that is put in front of you. If you have values that you do not deter from or detour from, it is going to help make your life a little bit easier, because even great opportunities are not going to turn out great if they're not aligned with your personal values and your business values. The third thing is serving with genuine and wholehearted nature, and then also striving for equity in all your pursuits. So you can see that in all these three spheres of opportunity and the core tenets, it still has and implements the RISE model within those four core tenets. So overall, we are looking to redefine business. And when I say business, I'm also including organizations, I'm including brand, whatever that word is to you, we are looking to redefine it. Because whether you're in a for-profit or you're a nonprofit, to me, it's not about the entity that you stand in, it's about how you're making sustainable solutions within that entity. I'll say that again. It's not about the entity that you stand in, whether it's a nonprofit or for-profit, it's how you are making those entities have sustainable solutions. It is about a sustainable mindset, not a business mindset, not a charity mindset, a sustainable mindset. And each one of you can be innovative within the system that you are in. So the goal here is creating a higher standard by redefining what that means. I like to use fair trade as an example. A lot of people ask me, Jenny, is your company Amani Collective Fair Trade Federation or World Fair Trade certified? At this point, it is not, and I don't know if it will be. And one reason for that, not saying fair trade is bad, because fair trade is beautiful and it's wonderful and it's good. And if you have that certification, snaps and kudos, that is awesome. But fair trade to me is just a transaction, right? We know that fair trade, we are paying a fair price for a good or a service, and we're getting that. But that's all it is. You might not ever come back to that partner. You might not ever pay that partner again. You might not ever build a relationship with who that person is, but you know that one time you gave them a fair trade, which is beautiful in that one-time solution. But ethical is transformational. And that goes back to having ethical impact, this holistic approach, building relationships, being long-term, finding long-term solutions. It's not about the quick handout of the fair trade and just doing it once. It's about the actual solution and the long-term planning and the proactive planning that we're putting towards something. And so partnerships to me, which is part of the 5 Ps, is always really important, because we're not in it for just today. We're in it for also tomorrow and the next, and we're being authentic in that in our leadership. So we're going to hop into the 5 Ps. So when we sat down as a School of Ethical Impact team and we're thinking through these 5 Ps, I kept asking myself, well, what are these things, or what is really important that we're always constantly talking about in our business and in our organization? When you look at the triple bottom line, I'm going to engage the chat here. What are the 3 things, if we're awake or we have our coffee or we're ending our day, what are the 3 things that make up the triple bottom line? People, planet, profit. Oh yeah, you used my piece. Is there other wording for that? That is true. On the 5 Ps, that's what makes up the triple bottom line. What else do we call that? Or other people call it? I feel like I need the Jeopardy. Do, 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 do. So a lot of times we're looking at social, which would be that people aspect. We're looking at like, what is our social impact? We're looking at our environmental impact, and we're looking at our economic impact. And that's literally what people, planet, and profit stand for. So most people are always like, yep, I'm honoring the triple bottom line. Yep, we're making decisions and goals off of the triple bottom line. But my question was, well, what's next, and how can we be better, and how can we be asking deeper questions, right? And so that's when we looked at and we added people, or we added purpose into this, purpose and partnerships. And so we're going to go through the 5 Ps and we're going to break this down. So the first thing is purpose. And the reason we added this is because this is the thing that we are fighting for. This is the thing that gets us up in the morning when it's hard. This is the thing that's going to continue to light us up when it feels really, really dark, right? So what is your purpose? What gets you up? What sets your soul on fire? And that purpose should align to your core values. It should align to your mission and vision, your personal one, your personal manifesto, potentially your organization one. But your purpose, I like to call it your wild. I just wrote a book called Let It Be Wild. I'm going to put my plug there. So go check it out. But I always ask people, what's your wild? Like, what gets you excited? What, again, like you want to go out and do and align yourself with, and with your purpose, we immediately go into who are your people? Because most of the time your purpose is aligned with some sort of community, right? It's some sort of people that you just want to stand by and you want to cultivate strong relationships with, right? So people are going to be interwoven in everything that you do, whether you like it or not. God has created us to be in community. So whether we are introvert or extrovert, we are meant to be together. And whether you are, in the global north or the global south, we all have different cultures and we all have different ways of life, but we are meant to be a village together and grow together. So who are those people that you are, the purpose you are fighting for, right? Who are those people that light you up? Are they and your people, again, when we're looking at full circle, is not just your beneficiaries of maybe the people in your program or the people in your business, your employees, but they are also your partners. So whether that's donors, whether that is suppliers, whether that is customers, right? There's stakeholders, beneficiaries, communities. They're the people that make up your ecosystem that when you press go, you have some sort of ripple that touches them, right? So who are they? And how is your purpose aligning to those people? Profit. This is a really important thing that we don't like to talk about in the nonprofit space because it says nonprofit, but we always need profit to actually do the activities and the things that we're doing, right? So profit is a powerful vehicle for sustaining people and impact. There is a famous saying that we say in the nonprofit space about profit and people. Does anybody know it? Anybody want to take a chance? Throw it in the chat. Yes. Thanks, Kira. We say people over profit every day, all day. And although I believe that has good intentions, it's also very harmful for long-term effect. If all we're doing is paying attention to our people and we are not identifying the revenue streams that are actually going to sustain the impacts, then your people will get hurt in the end because profit will not be coming in, right? Because we're not paying attention to it. We're not working on it. So this is a very powerful vehicle that is always going to affect people and impact. So what is driving your profit? If you're in a nonprofit, specifically in a charity, philanthropy, nonprofit space, foundation, whatever it might be, my hope for you is that you have a diversification of funding that is not just coming from one source, because as soon as that one source is cut, you're going to be in really like a lot of trouble in your budget, right? So we want to try our best to be proactive with understanding the profit, with making sure we have plans, with identifying new donors, with not only acquiring new perspectives of donors or grants or foundations or whatever it might be, but we also need to be retaining our donors. For every 2 donors gained, 1 is lost. That's a terrible statistic, but it's very true in the nonprofit space. We are terrible at retaining donors because we don't care for our people enough. So we need to make sure that with driving profit, we also are paying attention to people on both the beneficiary side and our stakeholder sides, right? So I do not believe in the saying people over profit. I think it's harmful in the end because I believe people and profit need to be in the same space, in the same conversation, in the same breath, so that we create sustainability for long term. Planet. This might not be important for all of you, but we do only have one temporary planet that we are standing on. And I think it is our job and our duty to pay attention to how we're impacting it and how one simple thing can actually truly make a big change, whether you're going to see it in your lifetime or not. So the planet, this is the thing that houses your mission and is affected by your people, profit, and purpose. I'll give you 2 examples of programs that we run within Amani Collective that go alongside Planet. The first one is a classic example that I probably sound like a broken record if you've heard me talk before, but I love this example because it is a way that you can use different materials that are already organic, regenerative, happening right in front of you, and something that is harmful, and you can make it good. So we decided moving forward that we were going to change all of our packaging and our tags, and we were going to start reusing our scraps and materials to reduce our waste, but then also be creative and innovative with our waste. So one thing that we implemented a couple years ago was using the hyacinth plant. Hyacinth is an invasive plant that surrounds Lake Victoria, and it actually sucks out all the oxygen that goes to the water. And so when the reality is they need to cut down this plant so that oxygen can come back into the water so that, and the ecosystem can be okay. So we partner with an organization out there that cuts down hyacinth, that pulps the hyacinth, that lays it out into big plates or big, what do we call them? Trays. And they put that mixture together and then they set it in that sun, and then we create sheets of hyacinth. And from there, we chop down that hyacinth and we utilize that hyacinth to create journals. And on our end, we also have a leather department here in Mombasa. So all the scraps of our leather, we then take the scraps of our leather, we put the hyacinth in, and we basically changed an invasive plant into something really creative. And we made sure that we reused our scraps, and we created a fully sustainable circular kind of economy product from scraps and from an invasive plant. So these are ways that you can help the environment and then also be creative and innovative. We also use hyacinth within all of our tagging now on all of our products as well, so that we are using alternative materials. So that's one example. Another example of Planet would be, I just lost my train of thought. Oh, I was accepting someone in here. Oh, that would be Katenge. So we went 100% plastic free last year in all of our exportation. And when we did that, we started wrapping all of our banners and our hang signs and our, we export anywhere between over 10,000 plus units a month. So instead of them being individually packaged, we were like, man, that's a lot of very thick plastic we are buying that then is just being discarded on the other end. How can we be better? So we started wrapping all of our products in Katenge. It's taken us a bit, but now the Katenge that is now sitting on the other side is now starting September 1st, will be launched back into the world as a product. And we will then teach our consumers that they can use Katenge for alternative packaging. They can just buy fabric and make a cool shirt, et cetera, et cetera. So we will now be reselling our quote unquote packaging as a product, and bringing that profit and revenue back into our program. So instead of also losing money on our packaging, we weren't actually now be making profit off of our packaging in the end, and also affecting the planet in a good way and reusing. So these are ways you can be innovative when you're asking, okay, how can I do things that are not only going to help the planet, but that are also going to affect our people, our overall profit, and who we are and our purpose that aligns with all of our values. And this is by far my favorite P. Okay, most of us cannot do what we do without partnerships. Something that my dad told me when I was very, very young, and I never got it, when I was like, I was going to say 5 years old. I'm sure he did not tell me this when I was 5 years old, but Jenny, never reinvent the wheel, right? Never reinvent the wheel. And me being an overachiever by nature, and just always wanting to push the agenda, I always wanted to create from the ground up because I just love and I'm fascinated with ideas, and then I want to activate them right away. And that has come to hurt me in a lot of different areas in my life, where I literally take an idea, I think too fast on it, I activate it, and then I don't pay attention or radically listen to my community of what's already happening. Um, and so partnerships is so key, because this is embracing that proactive and strategic collectiveness for mutual and global gain. And we are paying attention to what other people are doing. We shouldn't see each other as competition, but we should see really beautiful collaborations that can happen where we can uplift one another. So how are you leveraging these partnerships? These are questions that we want to ask ourselves. A quick example on this is, we have an initiative called Tumaini Initiative. It's our sewing and training, or sewing, weaving, and training program. It's currently on hold, but will be relaunched in January of next year. And it's a 3-year program. So the first year they go through sewing or a weaving training, but then in year 2, they can choose if they want to be placed into a sustainable like job placement. So we have vetted partners all over Kenya, right? So do they want to be placed into a consistent monthly salary paid job, or do they want to go the entrepreneurship route? I never want to assume that an individual going through training wants to be an entrepreneur, because not everybody wants to start their own business. A lot of people just want consistent pay, right? But with our entrepreneurship training, why reinvent the wheel? So we partner with Get Hope Global, which is an amazing organization that creates entrepreneurship materials for people across the world, some of which global leaders, global emerging leaders here in Tirzah International have engaged with. It also provides microloans and all of these different little things. And they do that with the basis and foundation of Christian values and scripture and characteristics. So they already have this amazing curriculum. So why recreate that, right? And why do it our own? So we are partnering with Get Hope Global. They will be coming over and training, kind of training the trainer here in Kenya in November. And so then we can then facilitate their curriculum across the board on our sites. So this is a way, another example where you can look across and see, okay, this person's doing this really, really well. How can we partner together and only be better together? So transactional versus transformational. It's not the paycheck that impacts lasting positive change, that transaction. It's that intersection of dynamic wraparound holistic approach. It is the transformation that we want to strive for in anything and everything we do in all facets of our life. We should be looking at the 5 Ps and asking those questions, right? What is our purpose? Who are the people that we are serving? How are we diversifying or leveraging profit, right? How are we paying attention to that profit line? How are we impacting the planet? And how are we creating strategic partnerships that is only going to leverage our impact for good, right? And for long-term sustainable impact. So starts with you. That's why you're all here. Transformation starts with you. I am so excited to be talking about ethical impact leadership in another webinar down the line, because we'll dive a little bit deeper of different, I'll get to nerd out with you guys on different theories and leadership development, how we can understand our communities and our followership types. But it starts with you. It starts with understanding who you are, one, as a RISE leader. So this is the core of who you are, respecting yourself and those around you. And when I say respecting yourself, that also means resting, which we all love to hear that word. As change makers, a lot of times we serve out of empty vessels. We give and we give and we give, and it's okay. This is my permission to you that it's okay to give back to yourself, to slow down, because if you continue to pour out in an empty vessel, you're not going to be there for long, right? And that impact is then going to falter because you aren't respecting or serving yourself as well as others. So respect yourself and the community around you, hold integrity, be authentic, right? Serve one another's wholeheartedly from that genuine nature, and then strive to hold equitable channels, conversations, dialogue. That's truly really the core of this model. So when you start with RISE and you start to ask those questions, you start to lead with those characteristics, then you're going to go outwards and you're going to start to ask all those questions that I just went through. You're going to have the lens that represents those 5 Ps, the people, profit, purpose, partnerships, and planet. again, in everything that you do, you're going to try to look at all the different aspects of how you're touching on these P's in your life, in your business, and in your leadership. So then that outpours into those 3 spheres of influence. So what is your purpose? I want to leave you guys with that. The thing that you're fighting for, what lights you up, what gets you up in the morning, and what pushes you to strive as an ethical impact leader in this world. We are going to end this time with Q&A. So we're going to kind of leave this open-ended. I always want to give like 30 minutes of good, deep talks on these webinars, and then give you guys space to ask questions. But this is what's coming up next. So all of these webinars will be held on the 3rd Tuesday, I believe. Is this the 3rd Tuesday? I think it is. So July 18th, August 21st, you can already put these in your calendar if you want. And these are the topics we're going to be going over together. You'll see on September 19th, we'll be going over strengths development. If you are going to be in that workshop, which I'll also let the leadership know in Tirzah International, if you're going to be at that workshop, I encourage you to take the Strengths Finder test. I am certified as a Gallup Strengths Finder coach. And so there's going to be really key things that we'll go over in strengths development, but it'll be way more beneficial and way more rich if you know your 5 signature themes, and we can kind of talk kind of popcorn and give some examples there. And then we'll end with the holistic self-care, well-being, conflict management, and we'll end the year talking about program evaluation and reporting, specifically end-year reporting. So that is what's coming up, but we're going to open it up right now. I'm going to stop sharing my screen to Q&A. In my class at California Baptist University, I always ask, what was your aha moment? So I guess I'm going to ask that to you guys. What are some of your aha moments from this quick webinar today? And if you have any questions as well, you can unmute, turn on your video if you want. I haven't seen any of your lovely faces, which is okay. You just got to stare at me the whole time. But if you have any questions, I am an open book, and I'd love to help in any way. Yes, I can. Okay. I had the call to prayer was going off. We live in a very intense Islamic hub, so I get to hear that quite often. So that was very loud for a moment. Yeah, so here are some comments over here for ahas. If you guys aren't seeing it, we'll just kind of fair trade as transactional, ethical as transformational, the addition of purpose and partnerships, people over profit, not always the most helpful or sustainable, incorporating Hyacinth. Hey. And then Elizabeth asking, can you give some examples about how you have had success separating your nonprofit and profit arms of your business? So I think this is a rather large question, but I think what my response back to that would be, what is your end goal? Because you don't always have to separate or become a hybrid to reach that end goal. So I think understanding what is your end goal, and it can get convoluted within creating 2 entities, but it also can simplify a lot of things. So for me, and why we chose to split, why we chose to be one but multiple, is because we were kind of growing a bit outside of our original mission of what we were as a nonprofit. Our revenue kept growing year over year by 100% or more. And we weren't just hosting a training program anymore. We were employing people now. So there needed to be separation there, where this is where they're training. There needed to be a duration of time. There was very legal kind of stipulations around that with just the NGO board and bureau and just legal requirements of a nonprofit. So we knew that we were being a little bit like, if there's anything that's ever questioning ethics, then we need to be asking, okay, why is it questioning that? So for me, it was getting a little bit too red tape-ish, I guess. And we knew that we wanted to be able to grow and scale at that point. And the reason why we truly became a hybrid was because I had, for the 2 years previously of 2021, I had been constantly pitching for a while and asking for money, and no one would touch my nonprofit. And they said, as soon as you become a for-profit, we'll have a conversation, which I found quite frustrating. And I think there's two sides. I've gotten investment, I've gotten debt on our nonprofit before we moved into a hybrid. But as soon as we became a hybrid, as soon as we became a for-profit, we got our first, $100,000 investment. So like literally they were just waiting for that switch. And I will say there is a difference as a leader in wearing an ED hat and wearing a CEO hat. And I can tell you that just from experience. We think similar, but we think very differently. When you wear an ED hat, you always have an out. And what I mean by that is there's always like, ooh, well, maybe we can just get that one more donation, right? Or maybe we can find that like rescue of a giver, right? Of a well-wisher. When you're a CEO in your company, you're thinking through every element of like, well, man, this might not work, right? We need to think through sales, and we need to be a little bit more strategic. And how are we cutting costs? Like, your questions are a little bit different than when you run a budget as an ED versus a CEO. And so for me specifically, doing that switch allowed me to stay accountable with how I was stewarding our finances correctly and well. So on a leadership perspective, it was a good switch for me, because I feel like it was a big shift in us making sure that we were stewarding that well. Some of our top guiding principles are stewarding human and financial resources in an ethical manner. And I just felt, as just solely a nonprofit, we weren't being held accountable, and we needed to split. And so now we have multiple businesses, and also our nonprofit, and we have board of directors over here, and we have an advisory board over here. And so we have a lot of people that are pouring into what we're doing. But I think the first question you always have to ask is, what's your end goal? Because moving into a hybrid or that direction might not be the right time, and you need to be ready to make that move. Like, are you financially solvent where if you make that move, you're going to be okay, right? Or do you still need the umbrella of well-wishers and, donors to actually run what you're doing? Those are questions that you need to be, thinking through. We have a couple more minutes. Does anyone else have any questions? Thank you. Yes.
Hello, I'm going to show my face. Jenny, can you talk about some of the like other best practices or other examples you've seen of folks that have been able to make the switch, or just like best practices in general? And maybe even similarly, like what are some common challenges or like pitfalls that you see people fall into as they start making that shift?
Ooh, those are all big questions. I could talk a whole hour, I think, Sarah, on that. I think pitfalls right away, I'll start from there and kind of work backwards. I think pitfalls is we don't, I'm not saying you have to think through everything. How Amani Collective happened was very organically, and then I put on my strategic hat, right? But I definitely don't want people to to fall into that trap earlier, kind of go in naively or be really hopeful. I'm an optimist by nature. But I want you to be optimistically realistic, like in what you're looking towards. I think to have that hope means that we have faith in our God, right? Because he can do the impossible. I think that's first and foremost, is you need to have faith. Imani means faith in Swahili. It is the core tenet of what we do. So we've taken massive leaps of faith, but at the same time, you have to be a realist in the sense of like, is that going to happen this year? Is that going to happen in 5 years? Right. And so I think pitfalls is that we're too optimistic sometimes, especially as coming from an ED going into a for-profit. At the same time, when you have a social impact element, and you're a social entrepreneur, we think everybody cares just as much as we do about our passion project. And so that is just the nature of who we are as people leading with purpose and passion, right? We exude that energy, like we're so excited. And the reality is we're going to hit a lot of flatness where people aren't going to meet us and then we're going to get frustrated. So I think pitfalls too is just thinking, again, over emphasizing like your goals are again, not realistic. Your key performance indicators, whatever you're setting, is not realistic to what actually can happen. I always say, do not hockey stick your financial goals or your performance goals, like be as conservative as you can with them. And then if you are beating them every month, then that's when you can stretch yourself, but you need to set a standard first before you're like, oh, I'm going to hit, X amount right away. And then other examples, I would say every organization in the social impact space that I know, whether again, it's community, like small local community-led nonprofits or larger enterprises, run their businesses completely different. Whether you're looking at a rehabilitation center or a crisis center or whatever that might be, and how they're diversifying income with like a coffee shop or a training tailoring program versus like someone who only has export business, but is still doing really good, really good stuff. So those are the things I love to walk with people on, because I think the first thing you have to identify is who are your people, who are you serving? What is the long-term goal that you want? And how are we going to get there? Because not everybody wants to scale up and go global. That's not always the best answer, actually. A lot of you in this room are people I know in Tirzah, right? The best business for you is your local business. So sometimes we think global is the way to go. And we think that might be the greener, the greener side of the pasture. I always say sayings wrong. You know what I'm saying? It might look a little bit greener over there, but it actually isn't. You have it right in front of you. So we need to be looking at that and slow down a little bit, take a deep breath to actually ask those right questions. But yeah, I could give you a lot of examples, but I think I'll stop there. Janice, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was just wondering how much, like what percentage of your, budget actually comes from the profit side of your business
Yeah. So,
to like feed your nonprofit work?
yeah, so we will not reach that point where our profit overflows into our nonprofit until 2026. So our profit right now supports all of our jobs, supports supports our salary. We give monthly salaries to our 120 artisans and staff on the ground. It supports all of our benefits that are attached to that. It supports all the operational expenses like overhead, rent, shipping, whatever that might be, anything within the business. That's where our sales profit goes to. Our donations, we still need to raise donations for our Tumaini training program. We have a development project with regenerative farming and water well kind of stuff we're doing in northern Kenya and Turkana. And then we also have our holistic programs. That's our food program, our childcare. We still fundraise for that. Our goal and our hope, and as we grow our revenue and our sales, is that by that date, 2026, then a percentage will then be able to overflow. But this is what I want to encourage you guys in. It doesn't happen overnight. I've been telling people we're taking steps to sustainability since 2016. Right. So it's a long game, but it's when you start asking the questions, you start slowly making those decisions. in the end, it will be very transformational. So we started saying that in 2016. We were still a nonprofit. We ran, fully as just a nonprofit NGO partnership for 8 years. And then we moved into that hybrid in 2021. And we still knew that we were going to, still need a significant amount of time to continue to raise our revenue and sales.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say thank you because, our approach, like what we're doing in Mexico, is very holistic. And
Mhm.
I think the missing component, obviously, in what we do, like we're trying to like bring freedom to people who are enslaved.
Mhm.
And of course, who are benefiting are all these traffickers that is, abusing the planet in the process as well, so that's definitely like a component for us to think about. And I think for me, the aha moment is like just that, how deep and wide the ethical approach is,
Yeah.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely do feel a challenge and my, wheels are turning, but it really vibes with what we're about here, the holistic approach. And I think as I'm learning, like the holistic approach actually is the ethical approach. So
It
this,
is.
yeah,
Holistic
love
and
it.
ethical to me is hand in hand.
Yeah,
Um, ethical. When I say ethical, it is holistic. It's you truly caring about the individual. And you'll see a lot of, and specifically in nonprofit space, I mean, you're going to see a lot of large international organizations that all they want is the impact number. They want that transaction. So they're going to go in and they're going to create something and they're going to leave. And that's not a holistic approach. That's just throwing money at a situation, creating a Band-Aid solution that's only going to be temporary for a year, leaving and then hurting that community. But then saying to our stakeholders, hey, look, we helped 150 people. And
Mhm.
then they get a pat on their back and just, ooh, I feel good. But that's not the change that we want to actually create. Right. And
Yeah,
so
impact is
that's
long
kind of,
term. Mhm.
yeah, it's long-term. Exactly.
Well,
I'll
thank
ask,
you.
yeah. I'm so glad you guys can be here. This is the end of our time. I will answer this last question if you do want to stay on to hear. Yvette asked, the capital raise, how did the capital raise impact the partnerships part of things for your business? I hope I answer this in the correct way. So I'll end with this question, but if you have to hop off, you can. So we knew, I think the capital raise is part of the long-term solution, right? We knew that we want to become sustainable on product revenue alone. So how do we do that? Because my goal is at the end of the day that in 2026, if I don't raise $1 in donations, that I'm still going to make, and our organization is going to make a really cool impact because we've raised our revenue. So I knew that capital raising was important for my business to grow. And I spent that capital in working capital, inventory, design, and marketing solutions. We did a lot of online marketing and different build outs. We were doing different innovative kind of website things. So that side of it is to build the sales revenue that in the end, in the next 3 years, I can say, hey, we're still having impact because we raised our sales revenue. And at the same time, I built a lot of beautiful relationships. I think that's the partnership side. When you have donors or you have capital or whatever it is, you're building partnerships, you're building accountability. You're going to have to be a little bit more vulnerable and transparent, but it's only going to make you better as a leader. And it's only going to make your organization, your business stronger. So I encourage you to find those people in your life that are not yes people, but are going to challenge you to maneuver and move in the right direction. Right? Okay. Thank you guys for being here. I hope to see a lot of you in July. And I'll leave you with this. If you guys want to check out, let's see, I should have already had this ready. Letitbewildbook.com. There's my plug, Sarah. That is my story of just kind of my journey with Amani. I will be on the road all of July. So if I'm in your neighborhood, you can find the letitbewildbook.com. We're doing a book tour all of July. I would love to hug your neck. I'd love to see you. So go check out where we're going to be and reach out to me. I will drop also my personal email. If you ever need anything, you can always reach out to me directly. Jenny@AmaniCollective.com. And I'd love to help you in any way. All right. Hope you guys have a great day.
Thank you, Jenny.
Bye.